Hey guys, and welcome to the Take One podcast. I'm Vale.
I'm Monish.
I am Sharvin. Oh, I'm so lucky. I am Sharvin.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
Okay, I'm going to give it back to you.
You're gonna give it back. All right. Okay. So before we even get started, right? I think a question that a lot of people have in their mind is, why a podcast? Why another podcast? There have been so many out there. Why another one? I'll just give my thoughts on this, and maybe you guys can also share yours. I'll just say this, so clearly we're independent filmmakers, all three of us, and we've been making short films for years now. And in this journey, I think we've met a lot of interesting people, other indie filmmakers, actors, people who are trying to break into the industry, student filmmakers who show a lot of promise, honestly, like amazing work. And when you talk to them, they have a lot to say. Like, that's what always comes to my mind, is that they have a lot to say. They have a lot to add. And I don't know, when I just see them, I hear about them, I'm like just thinking to myself, it'd be so great to have them talk, to have them share their stories. And that's what this space is for. Because I don't think there's something like this. I think, Monish, you were sort of bringing up something even that day where you talked about how short films aren't really highlighted. Maybe you could give me your thoughts on that.
Hi, yeah. No, I mean, short films really are not highlighted in the same way a feature film is, or a TV show is, or even a YouTube skit is. They're sort of overlooked. They're like the middle child. No one cares. And so, honestly, when Val approached me to do this podcast, I honestly just felt it was my opportunity to be the voice from the outer world. The voice in people's head. Yeah, well, you said it. I mean, I didn't, But really, it was a great opportunity to highlight short films and to probably bring some interest to people who are not used to watching this medium, and to appreciate the artistry that goes into it.
I think, yeah, so like what Moni said, short films, they're sort of like the bastard child, they don't really get enough attention. And, it's actually kind of sad because we put a lot of effort into short films, right? So much of resources that go into short films, and, a lot of time spent and all that, even sometimes compared to skits, not all, of course, but a lot of them skits, TikTok videos and all that. So it's actually sad that filmmakers don't get, their due, I guess, you can say. So I guess this is a way for us to sort of give filmmakers a platform, with Take One, the showcase, and also the podcast here today. So yeah, I will also say, thank you to Vale, because he came up with this idea. He just randomly one day, I think he contacted both of us, and then he was like, why not we do this, and we can give a platform to these filmmakers and all that. So yeah, do you want to maybe tell us some things about your how you came up with this and your feelings towards it, and what would you like to achieve with this podcast? So yeah, just tell us.
I think with this podcast, my goal really is just why I even wanted to start this is I wanted to create a platform, right? And I know that's a very generic answer. I completely get it, but that's where I'm coming from. Where I think in Malaysia, and I think we'll get into this a bit later, of course, I think there's not enough platforms for creatives. I don't think creatives are, given their due just, in terms of their platforming, in terms of letting them express themselves. I think a lot of times we're treated as, even in the fringes, we're just making art. No one really cares, I mean, what's the first thing you hear when you tell people you're making short films? Like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Are you making money? So it's just treated as this thing where, if you're not making money, it doesn't matter, right? And even if you are making money, well, is it consistent, right? We're always in that sort of gray zone where we're constantly, I think, judged and looked down upon. Instead of, I think art should be appreciated. And for me, this podcast is about platforming creatives and also giving them the space where they get to express themselves, right? Their work, and also hopefully a whole new audience catches their work and sees them, sees the work that they put out and also appreciate it. So that's really where I'm coming from. But of course, as much as we're talking about this, we ourselves are indie filmmakers. So I think what I like to ask you guys, and what I think I want to start this off with is, where did you guys start, right? I think we all have, a superhero origin story or whatever, right? We all have an origin. I want to know with you guys, what was the moment where you realized you wanted to be in filmmaking? Maybe I think I can just start with myself, right? For me, when the realization came in is I've always loved films. I think that's across the board. We can all say we all love films. For me, it was when I was 14 years old and I acted in a play. I was bamboozled to be in this play, by the way. That's a whole other story. I'll get to that someday. But yeah, I was bamboozled to be in this play, and it was hard work, months of dancing, singing, acting. It's a musical theater. I wasn't even prepared for the damn thing. But we did it, and we did 3 shows across 3 days, and it was so much fun. And I remember just telling my parents when I got into the car, I was like telling them, I want to do this for the rest of my life, right? And you can imagine how they felt immediately. They were like, no, this was fun. You're not doing this for the rest of your life. Don't do it. And I don't know now. So yeah, I would say for me, it was just acting was my sort of into filmmaking. Again, it was theater, but then of course later it became filmmaking. But acting was my sort of into this world of acting and filmmaking. Like that's when I did the theater with the play. That's when I realized, people do this. This is an actual career. It's funny because you're 14, you think you know this, but no, I wasn't aware of it. I didn't know. I just thought of actors on the screen as this separate universe they existed in, right? So it was only later where I realized, oh wait, this is an actual career option. This is something I can do, and here we are now. I direct, I write, I act, I do pretty much everything kind of. So yeah, but how about with you guys? What was the start? What was the moment where you realized I want to be in filmmaking?
Well, I mean, I'm from more of a writing background. Like you guys know, I have a lot of friends in common as well who are very technically advanced. They basically operate DSLRs like manual cars with no control. But I feel like I'm always looking at like what they're doing, and it's so intimidating for someone who never grew up with a camera. My phone was my camera, but that's a different thing. So I felt like what could I do? And obviously I love watching movies. I think we all love watching movies, but I think ultimately for me it was like I would like to write a script. I want to know what it's like. I was never the best at English, but writing a script for some reason was more interesting to me. It was always my passion to be like, oh, I'm gonna put words in people's mouth, basically lah, right? And automatically it just started to develop, and then I started writing scripts for my friends first, who were more visually expressive than I was. And then I soon caught the bug as I joined them on set, and I learned from them, and I see what I can bring to it. And then now I'm a director as well, and I'm an editor as well, which is crazy to say because in 2023 I didn't even know how to use Premiere Pro. So that was a whole, that's part of that evolution, I suppose. But I think with filmmaking, that was really my once you start loving watching movies, and once you start thinking about movies, and I was the kind of person that once you watch a movie, you think about it after that. So then once that becomes that thought process, it just went down the whole road of like, I want to do filmmaking. It's what makes me happy. It's what serves as a way of expressing myself. And, I get to spend time with my friends, but also to make something that I hope is worth people's time. So, yeah.
I just want to say that you guys are inspirational, right? Whatever you guys said. Yeah, so I think where I started was actually when I was 1 year old. When my mom my mom introduced me to this film. I'm sure you guys all know it's called Jurassic Park. I think, I was just so blown away. I was so immersed, and that's the only time that I would be quiet, So I watched it. I was so obsessed with it, I was, it's not just what's on screen, but I was also very much interested in how they did it. So I remember watching the BTS, and I watched the BTS, I think somewhere around like 100 times, right? Even as a kid, I was very interested in the BTS. So it started there. But I think in terms of like career, right, I had like a few options, right? One was, of course, being a filmmaker. That was one, very early on as a kid. And then another one was like an astronomer, right? Yeah, that's a bit difficult, but yeah, astronomer. And then third one was paleontologist. I mean, you can guess why. And yeah, so it started there, and I think ever since then it was like an obsessive thing, right? I remember as a kid I used to sort of recreate some of the scenes from the film, like with my toy cars, toy like dinosaurs, T-Rex, whatever. Like specifically that scene where the car is stuck in the tree. I used to like take like your Hot Wheel cars and all, put it in like a plant on a plant, and then like sort of recreate that scene. Yeah, so it started there. I think I was very much interested in the process of it, right? Because I view films as a way to like sort of like make your dreams a reality in like a literal way. That's the only way I feel like you can make your dreams a reality, right? Like whatever you can think of, you can find a way to physically manifest it, right? So that has been like the driving point, right? Ever since then, I can't think of a day since then that I've never thought about films. Like every day was just that. And then so, of course, I had this like there was a period of time where I was like obsessed with watching films, right? Every day I would watch like 1 or 2 films, right? And yeah, that was my life, right? I was like, I love watching films, man. But I had this thing in my mind where I was like, I want to make films someday, but it was sort of like a someday thing, someday in the future, until I think at one point I was getting really frustrated already, right? With college especially, because in college I didn't get any opportunities, rarely any opportunities, right? The ideas would be declined. Just I didn't get any opportunities, but we ended up working on our first film together. Actually, like the first time I worked on a proper film was with you. Actually, on his film. Actually, it's called Spirit Walker. We shot it on a phone. So since then, I think because there was this pent up frustration, right? Like where you watch films and you sort of like, I'm sure Monish, you may feel this also, right? Where you can sort of you get how films work, right? It's structured in a certain way and all that, so it becomes sort of like, yeah, okay, I get it, right? And you don't feel stimulated anymore at a certain point, right? So I felt like that was the next natural step, right? Next evolution was for me to actually make films, right? So that burnt that that spark you had for films and all that reignited, right? That feeling. So so since then we've all been making films actually. It's a journey, right? So maybe you guys want to talk about like how your filmmaking journey has been like since you started making films yourself, right? What are maybe some of the challenges and also some maybe satisfaction that you get and all that? So maybe you can start first.
Okay. In terms of the beginning, like with my filmmaking journey, I mean, I started in college because, okay, for those who don't know, Sharvin and I actually had the same college, right? We're not going to name the college. You don't get free promotion, okay? You don't get free promotion from me, boyo. Come on. You know what to do. You know what to do. Now, we were actually in the same college, but we were in different courses, right? And he loved filmmaking. So for me, I was in the filmmaking course, and I was always surprised because talking to him, he was so insightful. He had so much to say that I was like, why aren't you with me, man? Like, this would be great, right? So, but adding on to that, so my journey started in college. But if I look at it before college, right, I would say first it was theatre, right? First it was theatre. I had 2 theatre productions. One was the one when I was back in 2014. We performed at DPAC for like 3 nights. And after that, I had one in the next school I went to, like Sri KDU, we had a play at the end of the year. So I had like 2 plays sort of like that. And for the second play, I even rewrote some of the scenes and the lines because they wanted to make changes. So on the spot, myself and another friend of mine, Badam, both of us, we sat down, just rewrote as much as we can. So I think that's where it sort of clicked in my head, whereby, oh wait, I can also write stuff, because I like to write in general. I think that's like it's a moment where you realize you like to write stories, and you're like, oh wait, yeah, I can do the same for films, right? Lines are, you can change lines, you can add character moments, right? So that's why I realized, wait, I like more than just acting. I also like to write, and then writing led to directing, because people are like, well, you wrote this, direct it, tell people what you meant when you wrote that, right? So it's a natural evolution. So college was a big part of it. Again, when you get to college, this one, I don't know if this is very much pulling the veil behind, like pulling the curtain, right? I don't know how much of the curtain I'm good, pulling the veil behind it. You got that? You got that? Hey, that wasn't intentional. No. But sort of what I'm trying to say is that when you get to college, people are going to think that, oh wait, they're going to teach you everything, they're going to show you everything. No, that's not what happens. And what college does do is that it just sort of tells you, okay, so we want you to make a 5-minute short film. Get on it. That's it. You have 2 weeks. Get on it. So 2 weeks to plan it, to shoot it, to have the rough cut done by 2 weeks. And then you have to show the lecturer, get your feedback, re-edit, and then you screen it in class. That's all we get, So if you don't know anything, good luck. You're going to have to learn on the job, right? So as much as I enjoy the college experience, I'll also say one sort of weakness in that is that, let's say you have a group of friends. Like you mentioned, there's going to be those tech guys, right? The guys who, for some reason, I'm like you. I didn't grow up around cameras. So when these guys just know stuff about cameras, it's insane for me. It's like, what the hell, right? So what's going to happen is that when you're in a group, the guys who know how to handle the cameras are going to take it. They're going to take it and run with it. You're not really going to even have a chance to touch it. And to be fair, you kind of slink into your comfort zone, because you're like, well, yeah, I'm the director, writer / actor guy, so I'm going to stay here. You're the camera guy. You're the lighting guy. And we all sort of stay in our positions. But what's going to happen is when you leave college, you realize, wait, there's a whole plethora of things I don't know. I have no idea. And when that sort of clicks in, that's when it's kind of scary, right? Because you're like, fuck, right? What am I going to do? So then later I took it upon myself, right, to learn as much as I can through experience, just trial and error, learning from online, and that was its whole thing. So the project that Sharvin mentioned, the Spirit Walker, for me, that was sort of like a personal renaissance in a sense, I would say. I don't know if that's the right term, but in the sense that I took it upon myself to do a lot of the technical things myself, in terms of the editing and all this stuff. And from there, I started making films. At this point, I do pretty much everything, but that's where it started, right? So now I'm in a position where, making short films, in a year, we make at least 2 or 3. We get 2 or 3 out. We get people to watch them. And we also had our showcase event, Take One, which we'll talk about even more later. But yeah, so right now, I think we're a part of, at least for my journey, and I could say maybe even Charvin's journey, where it's interesting to see how far we've come, I'm sure it's the same for you. Our journeys are kind of parallel in that sense. So maybe you can shed some light on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't really take the veil off like Vel, but my journey was not too long ago, 2023, and that's kind of when it started for me, because it was just like, after a while, a friend of mine just approached me and he was like, let's just try to do something, the 2 of us. And then we roped in another friend and then another friend. And then we had 4 people and we made a film called Diary of a Hungry Man, which is out. And, that sort of was where it was like, oh, okay, we can make something simple. And it just sort of, people will enjoy it or relate to it. It's a film about chicken rice, but, it works out. And the whole thing with when I see that is like, oh yeah, we if we did this in college full time, that would have been amazing. The amount of films we would have made, it would be a laundry list, right? And while Vel and Sharvin had their college experience, my college experience was more towards the fact that the filmmakers or the film interest sort of we sort of discovered each other. It's like when we first met each other, it wasn't exactly that. Right. And then when we spent more time talking and everything, we realized, oh, I like movies, you like movies. Let's make a movie. And they're like, no, dude, we can't do that. It's for other people. And then we realized, oh, okay, maybe we can do this. And one of our lecturers actually writes short films. He's a screenwriter. And he invited us to be a part of it. and we were stranded one time at like an abandoned house during the making of said short film. And the whole thing was, you guys will probably relate to this, where it was like, guys, it's going to rain any minute. We have 3 shots. You only have 1. Okay? And learning to make those kinds of decisions instantly made all of us come into that mindset of like, okay, we're going to be filmmakers now, because you only have 1 shot, right? And it was at 3 a.m, and it was lovely, it was a picnic. But the whole point, it was just like that mindset shift changed a lot for us, and then when we started making films in earnest on like college time, we would have assignments due, you'd have all kinds of rubbish. Well, not rubbish, it's work, it's knowledge, right? But yes. Knowledge. But we did this on our spare time, and we would make short films, and we would show up to class, literally our eye bags would be down to here, and we would just be like, yes, miss, yes, sir, we are here, and so to really see the passion for making films, for telling stories, was so surprising to all of us, because we didn't think there were that many of us, because we were surrounded more by media enthusiasts, right? So it tends to be, we were in mass comm, we didn't really have a focus on film. So that was kind of it. And like in Val's case that he mentioned, the camera people take over. In our case, it was more the editors took over. We didn't have any formal editing course. We didn't have anything to teach us editing, which is why I had no idea how to edit anything until it became necessary. And so that experience sort of like is, I think for all of us that we can relate, is to understand how to improve in filmmaking, you have to do a lot on your own. Yeah. You have to learn through the YouTube tutorials, through asking people who are more experienced, and of course through taking action and making the film itself, no matter how lacking in quality it may initially feel to you, right? So yeah, but Sharvin.
So my filmmaking journey started, well, if you want to talk about really started, I would say like when I was like 1, I guess. But where it properly started was actually, I thought it would start in college, right? I thought it would start in college. I think we all thought it would start in college. But let me just tell you guys this, right? I mean, you guys already know this, but for those guys, right? Do not take a film degree, all right? Do not take a film degree. Do not take a film diploma. None of that. It's all, yes, it's all bullcrap, all right? You guys love films? Don't do that, all right? Do something else. Do psychology. I don't know if that's the right answer, but you can. Look.
Man who has never taken psychology.
That's a whole other topic. I won't get into it. But take something else that's a bit more useful, okay? And then go into film. Use that knowledge, go into film, all right? Don't waste your time. Well, I feel like I wasted my time. Look, the best thing that came out of college, I would say, is some of the friendship. Like, I made friends with him. I met him in college, right? And then through him, I met him, right? So that's some of the best things that happened. The whole thing is you meeting people, right? You meeting people, like-minded people, right? To collaborate with. That's the best part, I think, of college. Right. So, okay, with that being said, I think where my filmmaking journey properly started was in 2022, I think, right? So just to give you guys a bit of like history, I mean, some of you guys already know this, but like in college, I didn't get to do shit, right? I pitched some ideas, it got shut down. I basically didn't get a chance, right? Other than doing like, I think small videos here and there, I didn't get a chance to make a short films, right? So I was very depressed because of that, because I felt like going to college was a chance for me to like work on my portfolio, right? I imagined myself making films and all that. None of that happened, right? COVID also happened in between, so we didn't get a chance to go out and shoot, right? So I remember calling this guy, and then I was like, I was telling you I was like depressed, and like I was like, man, like I didn't get to do anything, whatever, right? And at the time, I had this idea, which looking back on it, I'm like, why did I think this way, right? Of like, oh, you should have a proper camera, you should have a proper crew, this and that, whatever. That's all, it's actually the way you think at the end of the day, right? And he told me, he was like, why not we just use a phone, right? Use a phone, let's just shoot something. Let's just go out. Doesn't matter what, we'll just shoot something, right? So he came up with an idea for like the film called Spirit Walker, right? And then we shot it on my phone, which was like a mid-range Samsung phone. We just shot it, we just went with it, and I think that's where it started. So we worked on that. I worked as a cinematographer for him that time, and then shortly after I directed my first film, right? So that's where it started. So there was, I guess there was this build up, and like there was this frustration, like this anger almost, right? Where it felt like you wanted to come out, right? I'm sure you guys would have felt that as well at some point in your lives, right? So yeah, I feel like that's where the filmmaking journey started. Look, I would like to ask you guys, maybe if you guys had to give advice, right? So my advice is don't do a film degree, don't go to college, right? Don't go to college. You go to college, study whatever, but like don't take a film degree, right? That's my advice. So I would also like to know maybe what you guys have to say, right?
Well, in terms of advice that I have, so we're going by each one advice, let's say. So for yours is don't invest in a film degree, it's a waste of time, which I agree on that. I would say it's kind of even like how you mentioned how we did Spirit Walker, right? Don't be limited by your equipment. Don't be limited by the means, the money. Like literally, I think filmmaking right now is in an era where it's the most accessible it's ever been, right? And I think it's only I don't know if it's going to go only like more accessible from here, because even from here, I'm like, where do you go, right? Where do you go? So right now, like you have your phone, you can buy even like a cheap camera, just anything, shoot something. Don't be limited. Don't limit yourself is what I would say. I'd say if you have a vision and you think you can get it done, just film it. Just film it first. Look, if it ain't good, it's fine. You can always make another one. That's my advice, I'd say. How about you? If you have to give one advice.
I suppose like the one advice I would give is try not to be intimidated by things you don't know, because I think especially at this stage, filmmaking is about like discovering what you are able to do with the resources that you do have, and then being able to like tell that story at the best possible quality you can afford to with what you have. You know, like a lot of things I notice tend to be like certain filmmakers become a bit more obsessed with equipment, and they tend to be more focused on getting the most expensive camera or getting the most expensive equipment that money can buy, and then you don't know how to use it. It's like a gun you don't know how to point. So I feel like being more knowledgeable on the resources that you have and having the courage to act with what you got is more important than really just having that equipment handy but not really knowing how to do that, you know? Fair. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I would like to ask is, what is maybe one part of filmmaking, right, that you guys struggle with the most? Okay, so I'll ask you first, all right?
In terms of a part of filmmaking that I struggle with the most, I would say honestly is sometimes maybe this is specific to me. I don't know if anyone else struggles with this, but like after certain experiences that I've had, I don't really like working with large groups of people now. I kind of struggle with that, because filmmaking, by right, you should actually work with a large group of people. At least, I wouldn't say large, but like reasonably. Like you want to have 5 or 6 people on crew, at least, right? You have one person handling the camera, one person handling lighting, one person handling audio. I do everything by myself, and I think I would be remiss to not mention the fact that the reason that that's the case is because I don't really trust people. I've kind of lost that through certain experiences, maybe that I'll get into some other time. But just now, I just say certain experiences I've had with other groups, maybe from college time and whatnot, where I've been scorned enough where my mindset now is, you know what, I just need myself. Or I can trust Sharvin because I work with him enough and I'm very close with him that I trust him, like implicitly, I trust him. But apart from that, like I don't trust a lot of people. So I think for me, the struggle now is to kind of actually let go control, because I'm so, I wouldn't say I'm like a control freak, but I guess to some people I am, right? The control freak doesn't think they're the control freak. So I think I am a bit to that extent where I just want to like, because when everything's under my control, I think that, okay, everything's safe. I know what's happening on set. But when I'm letting go of control, I'm constantly sort of even with Sharvin, there are times where I'm kind of at times hovering a bit where I'm like, okay, the shot's okay, right, okay, so that's good. So what lens are you using? Okay, so is this lens okay, all right. Are we going with manual or is it auto? Okay, all right. How's the lighting? Okay, like I should just learn to sometimes just let go and like, okay, you know what? That person knows their stuff. Clearly, he knows his stuff. Why am I so I'm holding on to it? So I think there's a level of, I think that comes from that lack of trust. So I think that's something I still struggle with. But what about you, Manish? What do you struggle with?
Well, I mean, aside from long staircases, I think mostly it's like trying to be more understanding of like the camera, because I think that's the one thing I don't really do. It's more of like, I write, direct, edit, and at some once in a while act. Not as good, but
I disagree.
But camera has always been something I've been very cautious of being around because I always feel like, oh man, this is like there's a distance between me and camera work, Not that I don't want to do it. Right. I always find it quite interesting, but it feels like so unachievable for me right now. And camera work is an investment, not just financially, but it is also, you have to practice with it. You have to really devote yourself to it. And I have a lot of friends who are very devoted to it. So I feel a lot of inspiration and intimidation sometimes. So I feel like that is something I choose to learn at my own pace. That's the best way to put it. Yeah.
Struggles. I feel like we are always struggling. Yeah, I think, okay, this one, I would say it's a bit strange, but like, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, right? But like, when it comes to like the way, like cinematic language in Malaysia, right? Specifically, okay? When I say language, I mean it in a literal way. I mean like the way the characters speak, the way they move, those kind of things, right? It is, I have been struggling to figure it out because you see, in like the US or even India, China and all these countries, right? Europe and all that, they have a history, with cinema and all that, right? So they have already figured out a language for themselves, right? So the way characters maybe like when it comes to dialogue and all that, the way they speak and all that, right? In Malaysia, we are still very young. We are actually an infant, actually, compared to other countries. So we don't have an established way of speaking, right? Not only that, we also have like, it's a very diverse country, right? So maybe you might have a particular accent. You might have a particular accent. I have a particular accent, right? Like maybe a Chinese dude on the street, he has a different way of speaking, right? And some people, they have a bit more of like a American-leaning accent, and some people a bit more British. And it's a rojak lah, basically, right? So it's sometimes difficult to find a sweet spot, right? I do struggle with that sometimes, I will say, because people have different kinds of accents, and sometimes they don't work well, right? With the Malaysian way of speaking. See, when we are speaking to each other like this, I think it feels more natural. But when you put it on screen, it feels a bit awkward in a way, right? So I think I have a feeling, right, in the next decade, maybe 2 decades or whatever, right? Is the period where we will be trying to figure out, we'll try to figure out something, and we may come up with something, the Malaysian film industry in general. So I'm still figuring it out. But it is, because you look at like maybe film students or whatever in the US and all that, they have an established like example to look at, right? While we are sort of like, in a way, we are still figuring it out, right? We don't have like we may not have a good example to look at. I'm not saying there are not good examples out there, but we're still figuring it out, right? So yeah, I would say that's my struggle. Okay. So this one, I don't know, could be controversial, could be not, but do you guys think that the indie filmmaking space in Malaysia is good at nurturing and platforming artists and like creatives. I'll start first, right? I have a lot to say, man. If I start talking, I could talk for like 2-3 hours, but I won't do that. I won't waste your time. But yeah, okay. So, straight answer, no. We are not. We are trying though. We are trying, but I don't think Malaysia is in a good place right now, right? And I'm sure you guys have experienced this, struggles and, getting yourselves out there and all that, putting yourselves out there, right? First of all, and I have talked about this quite a bit with people that I know, you, all of us, right? Nepotism, one of the worst things, right? One of the worst things. Nepotism is something that we have to fight with, right? Because, but also there's also a bigger issue, right? Where, people want to hold on to their jobs, right? Since, someone's son, maybe someone's nephew, whatever, they already have a job, right? Maybe they're a director, maybe they're an actor or something. The thing is, they also want to put food on the table, right? So they want to keep their jobs. They're going to hold on to it, right? So in doing that, they're not going to allow up and coming filmmakers, especially if you're a nobody, right? You don't come from a background where maybe your dad's an actor, your dad's a filmmaker, a studio head, whatever. It's going to be a struggle for you. You're basically playing Dark Souls in real life. Okay, that's what we are doing, right? So nepotism is something that we have to fight against, and with nepotism and all that, there's also like that whole issue of like, maybe that guy is not talented, right? Maybe he doesn't have the talent or whatever, but like he's still, that's how we end up seeing a lot of like slop, right? The little guys don't get a chance they don't even make it past a certain point, right? They make short films, with their friends, and sometimes that's where their dreams die, right? So Malaysia has a problem in that sense where they don't have proper platforming, right? Even these film festivals and all that, I will say, right? Some of these film festivals, I won't name names, but they already have a network. They have an established network. You'll see the same faces over and over again, and that doesn't open a space for up and coming creatives, right? And that's why we see, it's like a cemetery basically, right? Where creatives, their dreams just die just like that, right? Before they can even get started, right? So it's honestly really sad, and I hope going forward this doesn't become worse. But yeah, I have so much more to say, but I won't get into all of that right now. I'll give it to you guys first, okay, Munish?
So I'll just still a bit shell shocked, but one thing that is important for any film industry is to know how to platform your artists and know how to platform creatives. And I think Malaysia has had a long history of creatives, but we don't have much of a history of platforming creatives. And I don't even need to use a modern example. I can use P. Ramlee and the way he had his career went. Even though he is respected and remembered well today, it was not exactly a picnic for him either. And all I can say is, if we're doing that if we are capable of doing that to an artist that we today we hold in such high esteem, I just don't know how else other upcoming artists are going to be treated, because if you treat the main attraction that way, then every other side dish is just disposable. And I feel like we need to emulate countries that understand what platforming is. And platforming, of course, always comes down to money and all these things. But this is an industry that we are in right now, especially locally, that is so focused on rechurning Hollywood movies, or rechurning what we feel is popular or what is trendable and something that will, generate views, which is understandable in the long run for the sustainability of our industry, but it leaves no room for us to challenge our own status quo and the box that we've just locked ourselves in, because there's no room to grow. And like Shavin said about certain festivals that will not be named, tend to become padding grounds for the same faces to put their work up against other people who are just everyday folks, and sort of reinforce a certain messaging of nepotism and favoritism that we will pick works like this, and we will pick things that look like this. And that sort of messaging and that sort of thing is very, very harmful, especially to young creatives, because then you get young creatives making short films for festivals, which is a mistake in my opinion. I cannot stress enough how much I feel like that is a mistake. And it's so damaging for that creative, for that person, and for the general creative industry, because now we grow up with this belief, so if the festival tells us we can make this film, we must make this film. When you should just be making films because you want to tell a story. And that's something that you're interested in, you're passionate about, you feel is worth spending your time and money on. And of course, other people's time and money. But if we grow up with a culture of making things for an established set of standards, then nothing's going to change, nothing's going to grow, right? So yeah.
I think both of you had like really good points, like honestly, and like I'm not gonna say anything particularly new. Like I personally also think that it's not a good place. We don't nurture talent. I don't think we platform them. I think at this point, it's one of those things whereby, like we mentioned earlier, Malaysia is in its infancy when it comes to filmmaking. We're not experienced in this art form, right? But what sucks, right, is, I don't know, for me, again, one of the reasons why I'm even doing this podcast is because everywhere I look, I see talent. I see really talented people. But when I think of how we are treating the talent, it's depressing, right? When we talk about, again, the film festival circuit, exactly like how you mentioned, that nowadays there's this trend of, okay, let's just make short film for film festivals. We're making it for this. And that boggles my mind, because like you said, it becomes a vicious cycle. Because the festivals only want certain kinds of films, right? Which we'll get into, I think, culturally, where certain films and certain content is looked down upon. If you're making a film about a certain subject material, it's like, oh, that's too taboo, or you can't be showing that. You can't be talking about this, right? There's also this idea, I think, with, I don't know where this comes from, whether it's like government mandated or, which I don't believe actually. Some people may say it is. I think it's cultural.
Yes.
I think it's more cultural, where, like, even for example, like I can make a short film of like maybe that's more action heavy. So there's fight scenes, people getting beat up, and people are fine with that. But the second someone swears, you see people go like, ooh, like older people sort of go like, wait, you can't be saying that. No, how is he saying that? Even any hint of romance, like it's funny to me, because when I see some short films or even like feature films in Malaysia, they'll say, oh, these people are romantically involved. Yet you see them sit like how Monish and Sharvin are sitting, where there's like a gap. there's a gap there. It's like
the liminal space.
The liminal space.
To let people know that we are not dating. No.
We're not actually. They're not actually dating. You know. Come on now. Well, what I'm trying to say is that culturally, due to certain cultural sensitivities and certain mindset, we stop certain films from growing. Again, like with the whole debacle with Tiger Stripes, right? Like, why was that even a thing? If any other country, I think, right? Like, how depressing is it that a film like that, born and bred here, an artist, cannot get their film appreciated here, but outside of the country, it's doing numbers. It's like people are seeing it, they're appreciating it. Why is that the case? That's what always boggles me. Why do we never appreciate our artists? Like, think of someone like Michelle Yeoh. I love that when it comes to Michelle Yeoh. Anytime, like when she won the Oscar for Everything Everywhere All at Once, suddenly a Malaysian did it. Same thing with James Wan, right? Great film director. He was born in Malaysia, sure, but he lived most of his life in Australia. But still, people are like, he's Malaysian. Keep in mind, he's Malaysian. But I wonder, someone like James Wan, could he have had that same career if he tried the exact same ideas? Insidious, Saw, all of that. Could he have done it here? I don't think so. I'm sorry to say, I don't think that's happening, right? And I think that's kind of the root of the issue. So I think when we come, of course, to like, when we talk about filmmaking as an issue, do you think, because we talked about cultural, do you think now it's a problem with the audience? Does the audience have to change? What do you guys think on that?
Well, filmmaking always has a two-handed relationship between the filmmakers and the audience, right? And I feel like the audience does have a part to play for sure, but I also do think like we need to be able to sort of not convince them, but I say to build a culture of watching films not just in cinemas, but films that don't make it to cinemas, and the films that are on YouTube, for example, where it's free to watch, and all you need is a couple of minutes, really lah, right? You don't have to find parking, you don't have to do all that stuff. And I feel like if we make the case to the audience to come to this platform and to experience what creatives that have no real limitations except for the financial and distribution limitation can do, I feel like audiences will be a lot more open to these things, right? And as far as filmmaking problem goes, I think I can go on for years about that. I think the first thing I'd like to really say about that is we need to stop trying to reproduce movies and start trying to actually produce movies. Now, of course, even in Malaysian cinema, we have a lot of tropes, right? Where you need to have some ghost somewhere, or some buried relative that comes up, and or maybe we have some police films that tend to be very reminiscent of our Hollywood classics. Or maybe we have something that is basically a ripoff of current Hollywood, contemporary Hollywood films, and also some with very stark similarities. You've got Top One, and then I remember there was Air Force. So, very similar ideas. I'm sure they were both thinking the same thing at the same time. I mean, it's honestly... Yeah. I mean, it's like that whole thing about Michael Jackson being afraid that he'd get that Prince would get the idea, right? I mean, come on, basically, like that's the same thing, right? So I feel if we can maybe just tilt our focus away from trying to reproduce what our Hollywood contemporaries are doing, and focus on telling stories that we know people want to see. I think maybe we do better. Just a thought, lah, but
Do I completely agree with you, Monish? Like whatever you said, it's something. Yeah, it's. I completely agree. The thing is, in Malaysia, right? Like, it's not just Malaysia, to be honest. It's also other countries as well. But like, this is just from personal experience, right? Everything is sort of like this algorithm right now, right? Like there's this team, like marketing team, right? They're sort of like analyzing. Honestly, I don't know what they do, but like they are analyzing, right? Analyzing what the best trend is right now. What's the trend, or what's the latest TikTok trend? What's the latest trend in films, ads, whatever media, whatever, right? They're always chasing a trend, but what they don't understand is trend started with something original, right? Someone original started a trend, and then these other companies and whatnot, they are trying to replicate that trend, right, in hopes of becoming viral. And trends die, right? They're afraid to do something original. They're afraid to take risks, right? So in doing that, you're sort of like producing slop. It's like a factory almost, right? And I feel like that is where the film industry is right now, right? Where they are using, I feel like, outdated data, right? Where they're like, okay, so these kind of films are the films that work, right? Films like you said, like you mentioned, right? Horror films of a certain kind, like hantu something, whatever, the pocong on the tree, or something like that, right? It's the same thing, right? They're not doing anything interesting with it, right? Even action films is sort of the same sort of like format, right? Here's the thing, right? I don't blame the audience completely, right? Maybe the audience, like you've been to cinemas and all that, right? If it's definitely waning compared to before COVID, right? Definitely, yes. But I think a part of that is also the quality of films, right? I also blame filmmakers, right? I take accountability also. If people don't want to watch my films, I'll take the blame. I'll be like, okay, I mean, maybe I didn't make something that is interesting enough for someone to watch, right? So, you see, like films like that came out recently, right? Like something like Oppenheimer last year, right? It made $1 billion, was it? Yeah, in the box office. People clearly wanted to watch it, right? They paid money for it to go to the cinema and watch it, right? So films like that. And were there any other maybe original films that made quite a bit of money in recent memory that you can think of?
The one, okay, sorry. Yeah. Well, I mean, the one that we can talk about in the most contemporary form right now would be Obsession. It was made on a $750,000 budget. It crossed 100 million already. So that is, and
the second week also, right?
they did it before the second
Right,
week.
that's
Yeah. And he's not even worldwide yet. So that is one of those moments, and it's a rare film that has hit that height. It's comparable to a lot of great films already, and so that kind of thing is sort of it's doable in Malaysia. The example, of course, Mat Kilau. And I will leave it there,
Do you guys think that indie filmmakers, right, they are interested in building a community, or maybe they just want to stay in their cliques and just be among themselves, right? I think look, I don't think we can generalize, right? There are definitely people who want to collaborate and build a community, right? Then there are people who don't, right? And the people who don't are the people who already have a community of their own, right? Which also comes back to the early thing that we're talking about, right? Where they already have their own click circles or like networking and all that, right? So I feel because those people, they're safe. They already have their own thing. It's like a pipeline, right? Whereas the people who do want to build a community, maybe they don't have a community, they don't have a clique of their own, right? So they want to expand. So I definitely think there's this need to reach out to other artists and collaborate and all that. I definitely want to meet more people, right? More people of varying degrees, right? Again, they don't have to be good at films. They don't have to, don't have to be, Daniel Day-Lewis or anything. These things can be nurtured, right? Which is why I think some of these people who already are in cliques, right? They sort of they just don't accept these kind of people, right? They don't want to give them a chance, right? So this is the thing. They also don't get nurtured at that point, right? So that's what I think. What do you think, Manish?
Well, I mean, I think the filmmakers right now, the independent ones who have their cliques, view it as this is the way that we know it works. And then when a new generation of independent filmmakers come in with a different approach that they probably may wish they have done, I don't want to speak for them, but it just might be the case. I suppose it might be a little bit of a rude awakening because we do have certain advantages that they probably did not at their time. And for example, if you look at the current, the generation of filmmakers that were out in the 90s, or early 2000s even, compare that to the generation that came in 2010. The difference is incredibly vast. And then if you compare 2010 to 2020 filmmakers, we not only have access to our platforms, we have not only got access to our own podcasts, we not only have access to making our own films. Now, of course, the financial part has always been the burden, but aside from that, we have advantages that they've never had without being able to go into the industry, right? Yeah. And we have that on our own. Yeah. And I guarantee you, filmmakers in 2030 will be, I hate to say it, but will be using AI in a way that we've never even dreamed of. And they'll have those advantages from out the gate. So I feel these differences either make or break the possibility of building a proper community. And I feel like if you're more accepting to what advantages you've had prior and what disadvantages you have now, and being able to make up for that across different experience spectrums, I think that way you can create a more connected community. But also I feel a little bit of it has to do with ego. And I think there's a certain amount of ego in the filmmakers that have been able to quote unquote succeed in their own way, whether it is financially, whether it's with an audience. They believe what they're doing is the right way, and they've got a certain amount of evidence in their mind that tells them this is the way. You need to follow this way. But we may believe other things. We may have our own way of doing things. And I think as if we can open a dialogue between that and bridge it, we'll make a much stronger community for all of us.
That's actually a very good point where you brought up, where I think it is very true, where ego aside, because the ego, I think, is something that I would say I'm quite familiar with, right? I think we all have our own ego. And I was thinking more of, the point that I found quite interesting that you brought up, where we're all coming from different points, right? Because again, bringing back to the same point, Malaysian filmmaking is still in its infancy. And since something is infancy, right, it's kind of like, think of it this way. There's the baby, there's the toddler, and then there's like the teenager. Maybe we're the teenager. So when we look at the toddler, we're like, hey, get with the program, right? You're behind. The toddler's going to look at the baby. You're ancient. You can't even, you're just goo goo gaga. I can start saying words, right? So we're all looking at each other thinking that we're each of us behind, and the differences. Again, the toddler generation or filmmakers maybe think, hey, the way we did things is the way it should be, right? Films are proper, right? None of this YouTube crap, okay? None of it. We don't care, right? We're saying, hey, but like YouTube's a whole other platform. You don't need an expensive camera. You can just shoot with a basic DSLR camera or your phone. We're at that stage. And then, like you said, there'll be the 2030 generation where it's like, oh, it's all AI, man. You don't need cameras. Which, again, then comes the question, can I personally let that slide? I can't, right? I hate AI. I'm completely opposed to it. So like I look at it, I see red, right? And that's the thing. But that's the thing. So that's maybe on some extent, maybe a limitation on our end. We can't really relate to them. They won't really relate to us because they think it's a limitation.
I mean, I understand the framing of it as a limitation, but I also would like to say that there is value in experience, and that and while innovation is often associated with the youth, we are still the youth. So yeah, and I will say though that even though AI may seem like has all the bells and whistles right now, I feel like our perspective of approaching it with more caution versus filmmakers who approach it as part of their day-to-day is going to be an important point for how we can collaborate.
No, that's good. That's true. Because it's not, of course, it's not black and white, of course. And I think, like you said, we are still part of the youth, right? But it is something, because currently I'm a teacher right now, right? I do work as a teacher. So, and I look at the younger generation, there is already quite a bit of a gap, like even just a decade difference, right? There's a bit of a gap right now where they don't see, at least as of now, the merit of maybe doing things on your own and sort of that hard work. But then again, that's what the older generation probably thought of us, that we're not hardworking, we're not willing to put in the effort, right? So like you said, I think right now what we need is some level of course, communication and understanding of like, hey, so this is where we are at now. What can we do? Where can we meet? I think the older generation have experience, while the newer generation has, I think, innovation and also just the daringness to just try. Let's just try this first, right? With that being said, of course, I think then we can talk about the future, right? The future, what we're looking at. I don't know. I like to just ask you guys maybe, what do you think the future of indie filmmaking or just filmmaking in general is in Malaysia? And maybe more importantly, maybe we can specify it, right? Do you think platforms like YouTube are the future? Maybe we can start with you.
Well, actually, there's good evidence that platforms like YouTube are the future because, number one, you would just look at Iron Lung and the success that has brought. Now, whatever you may feel about the film itself, it's not really the point. I feel like the point of it should be that he got global distribution, and now Iron Lung is set to come out on YouTube, and you can pay to watch it there. And I think for someone like Markiplier, who made Iron Lung alongside his crew and everything, I think that's the kind of deal you should get, because YouTube has the most diverse and biggest distribution platform that you can look at. Any streaming platform also, it may have even 1 million, 100 million. YouTube's in the billions. And it's combined with Google and all their abilities to, it's in a one integrated machine. So I think YouTube and that platform could really be structured in a way to benefit indie filmmakers and become sort of a dark horse in like the distribution game. Because I don't know what deal they would have given Markiplier, but I promise you, any regular filmmaker, and I say regular with respect because Markiplier is no longer a regular filmmaker and he never was, He already had a very, very strong audience before that. Any regular filmmaker, if you give them a fraction of the deal that Markiplier has, 1/8 of the deal, they would jump at the chance. In fact, if you paid them with just AdSense, they probably would still say yes. Right? So I feel like that is definitely one of the pathways to the future lah.
I think the independent scene, right? Like, I feel like indie filmmakers are living in like one of the best and the worst times, right? So best times because I think the gap between professional industry filmmakers and independent filmmakers, right, are closing. Right, we have access to equipment now, right? Like even your standard consumer cameras can be made to look like the quality is not very far from the films that you see in cinemas. Some would even say you could even do better, right? So in that sense, yeah, and it's way more accessible, right? And also in terms of like marketing yourself and like platform like YouTube and all that, you can just put your work out there. You can skip several layers like to put your work out there, right? So that's a good thing, right? The bad part is with all this AI stuff, the slop out there, and also like everything is now algorithm based, right? Like with TikTok and all that, how everything is everybody's going for something that's 30 seconds and below, so there's a lot of media being thrown at you, right? It's being thrown at you. It's just like that, right? Constantly you're being bombarded with things and all that. So the competition in a way is higher than ever, right? It's not a bad thing, right? Because I feel like filmmakers that persevere, they will end up making something like, they can beat all of that, like quality wise, right? Can stand out, right? So the competition is higher than ever, right? Because also we have to also look into like, because films have been around for quite some time, right? So a lot of films, a lot of ideas, maybe an idea back then, that if you had the same idea right now, it wouldn't be very revolutionary anymore, right? Like a simple idea, I don't know, give me a popular film idea, like The Matrix, right? So Matrix, I'm pretty sure you guys, like maybe even before you watched The Matrix, right, you would have had some idea of like a film like Matrix, right? Something to do with like like reality and this and that, right? But now if you plan to make a film like that, it's going to be compared to The Matrix, right? They're going to be like, oh, so it's like Matrix, right? It's like Matrix but with this, or but with that, right? Yeah, and also, not to bring my own film here. I tell you, man, sorry, I shouldn't swear, but like, we made this film called Blood Moon, which is a vampire film, right? Oh my God. Sinners came out in March. I came up with this idea 1 year before that. 1 year before I even knew Sinners existed, all right? And we started shooting it, we finished shooting it, everything. But so happens we released it.
Nosferatu and Sinners.
Yeah,
It just so happened there were like two
coming, yeah.
back to back.
Back to back. So Nosferatu and Sinners, right? So we finished shooting everything and we released it like 3 months before Sinners, I believe. So the most annoying thing, right, Monish, because I don't think I've told you this, but like, the red eyes thing? Right, we have like the red glowy eyes thing on the vampires, right? Sinners had that too, right? So I remember I was like going for interviews and all that, right? And these interviewers would say like, oh yeah, we watched Blood Moon, but like Sinners is better though. Like, I'm like, okay, hold on. I agree. Maybe Sinners is great. I love Sinners, man. But here's the thing. Sinners, what was the budget? Was it 200 million? 150 million?
It's around there. It's around
there. In USD, mind you. So you multiply that, right? So I did the rough calculations, right? Like Blood Moon's budget was 700 something, right?
700 ringgit.
700 ringgit.
Not million.
Ringgit. 700 ringgit, okay? And then, okay, how many times of that budget, right, is Sinners, right? Yeah. It's about 1 million plus times, right? The budget. So that comment was just baffling me. You know who you are. I don't think you're gonna watch this, but you know who you are. Okay. So it's stuff like that, right? Like ideas and all that. But here's what I believe, right? If you make a film honestly, like from your heart, right? Because we all are individuals and we have our own experiences. You, Monish, you have your own experiences. You've gone through a lot of things that I haven't gone through. I've gone through a lot of things that you haven't, and you too, right? We all have our own individual experiences. And I think those things translate into our films when we make it honestly, right? When we're not chasing all these trends, algorithms, whatnot, we are making the films, honestly, we're making films essentially for us, for ourselves, right? Then whether or not the audience want to watch it, that's up to them. I'm sure you guys subscribe to this too, right? So I believe that, I believe it doesn't matter. You could have the similar idea to like The Matrix, right? The Matrix, oh, I'm going to make a film like this, whatever. But your mindset is like, I'm going to make a film that feels right to me. And this is my film, right? It just so happens that there are some similarities to The Matrix, right? I feel that's all that you need, right? You just need to make films that feel right to you, right? So yeah, that's what I think.
I guess when we're speaking about, of course, Malaysian cinema and where we want to go moving forward, the future, right? I like to ask you guys, what kind of stories do you think are still not being told when it comes to Malaysian stories, Malaysian filmmaking? What kind of stories? Because we already spoke about the stereotypes, right? We already talked about the you know, the toot, toot, toot. But like we've already spoken about certain tropes and certain types of films that are churned out and that are viewed as, again, algorithmically marketable. You know, this is the kind of film that people want to see. So what kind of films do you guys think, what kind of stories should be told, do you think, or aren't represented enough? Let's go with that.
Oh, okay. I mean, to be honest, I think we're still so, and this is just kind of a personal opinion of mine, and I feel like we're still so hell-bent on capturing the nostalgia of the olden days.
Yes.
I see so many things where, you know, you see things like the nasi lemak uncle, or the cab driver that's nice to you, or you know, or you're still, everybody is friends with everybody. And honestly, I would love for that to be the reality, but in today's world that just isn't the case. Maybe it is in different areas, but I can tell you for sure in the city center, Kuala Lumpur, ain't nobody that nice, you know what I mean? like
Yeah.
these kids don't even know what nasi lemak uncle is. They'll probably think that's not really a nice thing, you know? Yeah. And if a taxi driver these days is nice to you, it's usually for the wrong reasons. So all of these things tend to, I look at it and I'm just like, that doesn't feel like the world I'm living in. This could be almost sci-fi if I didn't grow up in like the 90s. You know, I say that, but I just slipped in the 90s. Anyway, the point is, it's like, when are we going to reflect modern Malaysia? You know, when are we going to face the reality that some days we eat lunch at 7-Eleven and not everyone has char kway teow for breakfast or teh tarik? You know what I mean? Like, some people just want to have lucking coffee and a Subway sandwich. And yes, and you know, and that kind of thing feels more reflective of the world I'm living in. And maybe just because we grow up in the cities, right? But that is the world I would like to see. The city folk are paying to see movies. It would be nice to see some of us there, right? I'm not saying take any of these stories away. I'm just saying make more of these stories. And another one I would like to say is, we are a country that has a lot of languages. Tons of languages. And Shalvin has already talked about our cinematic language and the mess we're making of that. But like, there was a film that recently came out in the recent Cannes Film Festival called All of a Sudden. And it's directed by the guy who did Drive My Car, Ryusuke Hamaguchi. The interesting thing about this film is that it is a French film and a Japanese film, all at the same time. And it's centered on two women who speak in two different languages, but in the film, they understand one another. Like, as if we're having this conversation right now, you're speaking Tamil, you're speaking French, and I'm speaking Spanish. So if I go like, hola español, and then you say something in Tamil to me, and then after you say oui.
Say something in Chinese.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, it's the film goes around in a way where the language is not addressed. She's just speaking French, but as far as the Japanese lady is concerned, it's Japanese to her. Right. And that sort of thing would be an interesting thing to explore in Malaysia, because we have so many different languages. Frame a sci-fi film around that and you got something going. I just gave someone $1 million idea. Somebody needs to be writing this shit down.
Pay attention.
But
Royalties, huh?
yeah, but like, I feel if we're not using our melting pot advantage for anything more than tourism, it feels remiss. You know, so that's just kind of the stories I feel are not being told.
I love what you said, by the way, like the tourism point and all the things. I completely agree. This is something that we have been talking for years. I think at this point, right? Okay, let me tell you this. Okay, let's start with the film festivals, right? I'm not naming names, but we all know who they are. Look. I think they should give up on like having all these themes. Look, themes are fine, but like specific like.
Sorry, let
Yeah.
me just interrupt you.
Yeah, sure.
Themes are not fine. Themes are not fine. It is an ass ache that we don't need.
I completely agree with what he just said. Let me add to that, right? Like, stop it, okay? Stop that shit. All right. All right. So, okay. So, look, themes, right? Themes. Also, I'm hungry. I don't know if the mic picked up on my.
I can get it.
Yeah.
What he means is he's hungry for success.
He's hungry for some
Yes.
power.
Wolf of Wall Street style. But no, okay. So they are limiting filmmakers. Like they're saying like, oh, it should have diversity, right? Look. I love diversity as much as the next guy, right? All of my friends, they come from different, like walks of life, Indian, Chinese, Malay. I don't care. I don't, you know what? In fact, I don't give a shit, when it comes to a race, right? I'm not specifically looking for a Chinese friend. I'm not specifically looking for a Malay friend, okay? I'm just looking for a good friend. That's it, right? And I think that's how films should be, right? Films should not have a limit like that, right? You should show diversity and all that. Hey, the diversity could just be like two guys just having a drink together, two guys doing a job together, two guys having maybe one guy is going through a divorce, the other guy is going through a breakup, right? It's a very similar situation. Their race could be like different, whatever, right? But two guys, diversity of situation, right? So. Yeah, because look, man, we all are humans at the end of the day. I think that's what we should look at, right? And these film festivals, all they're limiting. They're saying like, oh, you should have it be like this. Maybe there were some film festivals. I think they were like, oh, you should show like Malaysian food and all that, right? Malaysian food is diverse. We don't even know what Malaysian food is at this point, right? It's all over the place. That day I went to the Pasar Malam. I saw like appam balik cheese. What the. Sorry, what is that? What is that? Okay.
What is that?
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? It can be anything, right? So I agree with you, Munish. Like when you said that, we should just stop doing the whole kampong thing. Look, I'm not saying don't do it. There are stories to be told. What I'm saying is be honest when we are telling stories and all that. If that thing is taking place in the kampong, right, and the story has to be told there, then go ahead. Right, but there are also a lot of things like we are in the city, we are doing things. It doesn't just have to be about like Ali, Mutu, and Ahok. That's a restaurant, okay. But that's what I'm saying, right? It could be about like two guys going and like they're on a job, they're both assassins or something like that, right? It's not just Hollywood. Hollywood. When you're looking at Hollywood, we picture only people from the yeah, they don't own the concept, right? We picture them, only they can be vampires, only they can be like assassins or whatever. Why not Malaysians, right? Malaysians can do that, right? So what I'm saying is the central point and theme doesn't have to be about like diversity or something. Diversity can be shown through other means, like again. A Chinese and an Indian guy, maybe they're doing like an odd job together or whatever, right? There's no mention of about the race. They're just doing a job together, right? That's diversity enough, okay? So that's what I think, right? So yeah, Bill.
I would say you guys both like knocked it out of the park because that's pretty much basically what I want to say. But I'll just add on to that in the sense that, like you mentioned with diversity, how you both of you mentioned about diversity, the thing that irritates me so much when it comes to this topic of diversity is the fact that when we're talking about, the thing is everything has become commodified. Everything is algorithmized. Everything is quantified. Okay, we need this amount of screen time for the Chinese guy. The Indian guy is going to come in and say something Indian. And the Malay guy is going to be the mediator between the two of them. And it's the same. And it's the same. And it's the same. It's so annoying. Are we just boxes to tick? right? Like, I don't think anyone actually appreciates this diversity quota thing. Like, I don't think anyone does. I think the only ones who do are honestly like the old people who are like just watching the TV like, there's an Indian fella there. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying lah, like some auntie, uncle, they're like, not bad lah. Got one Tamil paiyan irukkan la. They're like, they're happy lah. They're happy to just have that little, the little cameo at the side there, like, wait, with this camera, like,
the representation.
yeah. Representation, everything's commodified. Everything has become algorithmized, which is what I despise. And it's the same thing with film festivals. Same thing with when you're pitching to certain TV networks. I won't name which ones. But they have their quotas. They're like, oh, you need to cast this many different races. We need this kind of representation. Why do we need that? Why can't, like, aren't we all Malaysians? What, like, there's a thing that I hate, a phrase I hate, right? When I see in a lot of film festivals, I see in a lot of places where it's I've heard this. People have told me this. Like, when I say people, it's like all these, these ghouls who work in the film festivals who have told me this before, where it's like, oh, your film is not Malaysian enough. What does that mean? What does that mean? So that's when I told the person, I was like, so would it be Malaysian enough if it's one Indian guy, one child, Ali Muthu Ahok, sitting at a mama eating nasi lemak with a Malaysian flag in the background? Like, come on, like, American films, like Hollywood does that as like parodies, like Team America, like bam, 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 and there's the flag in the background. It's meant to be a parody. You guys aren't meant to actually do that. Like, what the hell's going through your head, right? Because a lot of the people, I think, in marketing departments, like you mentioned, right, who do all of this, like, oh, the promo material, they're so bloody out of touch. They just think, oh, just slap on the Indian there, slap on the Chinese there. It'll work. No one will question anything. And it's that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so infuriating, and so insulting. I think Malaysians, like Chinese, Indian, it doesn't matter. Like, we're Malaysians. Like, we should be free to act in any role. It shouldn't be the Indian is the comedy relief. Like, you see in any film, the Indian's a comedy relief. Why is that the case? We can be anything. We're free. We're Malaysians, are we not? And I think adding on also to the point about not just about race and not just about diversity. What was the point that you brought up, man? Earlier. Something about not just about race. There's something else I wanted to bring up.
The state of life.
Thank you so much. Okay, I needed that. Okay, but no, it's something that you brought up, and also you also brought up with kampong, right? Here's one thing I despise, is that for whatever reason, we cannot showcase Malaysia for how it truly is.
Malaysia truly Asia.
Malaysia truly Asia, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, it pisses me off that, again, like how you say, that's fantasy. A lot of the Malaysia that's shown in films is fantasy. It almost feels like propaganda, like, North Korean propaganda, like everything's fine, nothing's bad. I'm sorry to say this, but life is not picnic and fucking roses, right? Like, life is tough. Yeah. Life hurts.
I feel like maybe just to add on to what Val was saying was that we're so obsessed with the role of escapism that we forget to reflect what we actually want to reflect. So we feel like everyone needs a role to escape into, but sometimes we just want to see what we do, what we go through actually.
No, it's like, okay, like if let's just take kampong films for example, right? Let's just take kampong films. Okay, I personally have grown to despise them, and it's not because of the fact that it's in a kampong. It has nothing to do with that. It's because it's a fantasy. It's because I have relatives in kampongs, and you know what goes on there? They fight over land. They fight over families. They fight over, my chicken are missing. Did you kill them? My dog is poisoned. Did you poison my dog? You're too loud at night time. My kids need to sleep. They're not clean cut. Like, it's not, oh my God, hi. Apa khabar bang? Saya baik. You macam mana? Like, no. People are still people, no matter where they are. Whether it's in the city, whether it's in the kampong, people love, people fight, people hate, people, want to destroy each other, people want to build something of their own, people worry for the future. Why is that never showcased? Why is it sanitized? Yeah.
The exploitation of old people, man. Old people. I don't know, what is it? There's always a grandfather or a grandma or something who's like on the verge of dying, right? And that for some reason is like Oscar bait films, right? Hospital tropes. Yes. Would you like to add on?
I just want to add on to Shavin's bit was that for some reason everybody's got to be in hospital, and like I don't know why. It feels like I don't need to see everyone get hurt just so you care, and also it reflects badly on the main character. It's like now you care after he's been hit by a car.
So I remember back in like college, there was this one filmmaker, right? He used to do a lot of exploitative films. So some of the tropes that we mentioned earlier, like old people, poor people, right? Again, you can do films about these people, but there is a way to do it. There's a tasteful way to do it, right? So, dude, I wouldn't even be surprised, right? Some of these people, they film actual like, no, some of the people, they actually film like beggars and all that. I am sure you guys have seen these films, right? Beggars on the street and all that. Make a film out of it. Make a piece about it, right? And they're saying like, oh, look at the state of like how we are, this or whatever, right? But those same people don't help beggars, right? They walk past them every day, like just like that, right? So that becomes exploitative at that point, right? So that's what I don't want some of these film festivals to encourage, you see, because for them they're rewarding people, like they're saying like, oh, if you show like people like this or whatever, they're rewarding them, you see. So it's creating a cycle, and I don't think that's very nice, lah.
No, to add on to that, like, that doesn't mean go in the opposite direction of make misery porn. I'm not saying that, okay? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to get at is like how you say, we want to portray reality as is. And reality sometimes is just a guy working a dead-end job in an office building, having to be like stuck in train, sandwiched in between people. You have to head back home. You're tired late at night, but guess what? Your salary's not enough. So you have to work another job on the side to make sure that you can pay for your house. Why don't we ever see that guy? We never see that guy. You know who we do see? We either see the kampong fellow or we see the rich family that has some, the TV drama, or it's always a rich family. Oh, the rich family. And there's like some cheating scandal going on. Why are we so obsessed with these stories? And then we wonder why. Here's the thing. I get it, right? To some extent, I get it. Like how we say, we want to follow trends, clips. We're clipping. Everything's a clip. Everything now is like, oh, chat, clip this. That's what we're thinking now. That's what even these marketing guys are thinking. Oh, we can clip this. But that's not the point. That's not the point. It's all about telling a good story, all right? What I think needs to be showcased are real stories of real people, right? Everyday people. And if you want to do something heightened, you can as well. Like again, like you mentioned, assassins, vampires. I don't know why we limit ourselves. Like when it's horror, why is it always the same kind of horror? Why don't we do something a bit more cerebral maybe? Like why don't we ever go there? It's always something satanic, some puntiana, something, and I love films, like I can enjoy them, but like why is it the only type? Why is it the only type? Why don't we ever try to branch out from that? I also think, I guess if I would summarize my point, is just let's not pretend Malaysia is a fantasy land. Like, I love my country. But you know what? I love my country for its warts and all, right? My country is not perfect. The people here aren't perfect. Guess what? Because they're people, right? No one's perfect. Why don't we showcase the country and the people as they are? I don't think we're that disgusting where you need to hide anything. We're not like that, lah. Please, lah. Like, let's just show the reality of it, lah. Life, struggles, because then people will be drawn to that. People will relate to that. People will understand, hey, that's me. I think that's the magic of cinema, is just when you can look at the screen and recognize yourself. Even in a heightened character, even if it's a superhero film or a sci-fi film, you can look at it and you're like, oh wait, that's me. I know that guy. That's me. I've been there, I feel this, right? Like if like the whole the whole meme with like the Ryan Gosling literally me character thing, right? Why is that such a thing? Like, to be fair, it's because a lot of these characters, to some extent, I think especially young men, can relate to. They're like, hey, I know what that's like. The scene in like Drive where he's driving in the night, silently. I think we've all done that at some point. We know what that feels like. But in Malaysia, it's always everyone smiling. And if it's a struggle, it's usually like some simple family thing. And it's like, oh, you need to understand the culture, right? It's like, come on, right? But yeah, that whole element of like, oh, you're not Malaysian enough is very disgusting in my opinion. I've heard different variations. I've heard you're not Malaysian enough. I've heard you're not Tamil enough or you're not Indian enough. I've heard that too. You don't cast enough Indians, which is a whole other doozy, by the way. Like, I'm Indian. What? So I think we need to stop obsessing with race. And I think the more we try to correct the wrong of like, oh, race, we gotta correct this, you're not doing anyone any favors. Let's just treat everyone like we're equal, regardless of race, gender, sexuality. I don't care. Let's just treat us all as we're all in the same playing field. We're all adults. We're all people. We're all human beings. Let's all treat ourselves like that, you know?
I just have a little sub discussion just to present to you guys, and I want to hear what you guys think because I just have been thinking about this over the course of our discussion. You know how like we were talking about how film festivals have themes and how much of an ass-ache that is, right? I feel like that actually shows the infancy of our film industry because it's a way of thinking. If you'll give me a second here, it's like, what if that theme sort of pre-dissipates or says that this is the way to see the world. And now I want to see what all of you can do with this POV. Yeah. So it's like if it's a horror festival, which to be honest with you, I do support horror only festivals only because I feel like that really gives the genre hope. But if you're saying themes, and the themes I think we should elaborate on tend to be something more like what is a theme that's been done before?
That's the one that they did. Where some of the themes aren't even that realistic. They'll be like, oh, make a film about like a badminton racket or something like that. Like sometimes they give you prompts, but in terms of themes, it's like, oh, themes of unity, nationalism, or something.
Okay, now I got that one. Okay,
You got it.
All right. So it would be like unity, right? And I feel like that just predisposes this to becoming a festival of patriotism. And there's nothing wrong with patriotism. But when every film is framed around the idea of the same topic and the same approach to said topic, which is almost always the case, your film festival is, to be frank, not exactly exciting for anybody to watch. Because why? You're seeing different versions of the same thing made at different scales and different levels of budget. And it's like, I feel like unity can be conveyed in a drama, which is what we would always go for. Comedy, another one we love to do. Romance, another one we love to do. And of course, sports drama, which Malaysia is, we are kings as far as that's concerned. But I also feel unity can be shown in a horror film when you're fighting another entity. Unity among people who don't get along have to, get together and fight this entity, like a Stranger Things sort of thing. Yeah. Or unity could be even shown in sci-fi, where if you look at something like George Orwell's or Dune or these kinds of things where you have to band together to fight in a rebellion and so on, Star Wars, right? I feel the theme of unity is so wide-ranging, but our perspective on it is incredibly narrow that it creates equally narrow filmmakers.
No, I completely agree. Like, I think what it is with a lot of film festivals that are out there is that there's always that narrow lens. There's a very narrow lens that they want to impose onto the filmmaker. Because like you said, if let's say the theme is unity and you make a short film about, suddenly an idea came to me, right? I don't think it's anything revolutionary, but this is nothing. But like I got an idea. Well, imagine a group of people have to fight against, if you want to ground it in culture, if you really want to ground it in culture, maybe the spirit or a ghoul of a former Japanese, soldier, right? Who fought for his country, was oppressing and killing Malaysians. And now you're stuck, maybe, let's say, in a battlefield and their undead spirits are rising to kill you. So there you go. Some cultural histories, whatever, right?
You all can tell he directed the Spirit Walker.
It just suddenly came to me because you were speaking of that. Because it's like, oh, foreign entity, we have to unite to stop it, right? Something like that. But here's the thing, right? Even under that lens, when you make a film, when you send it for these festivals, they'll still tell you, oh, again, that dreaded phrase, it's not Malaysian enough. It's not Malaysian enough. So what we're doing is we're putting this limiter as to what can be considered Malaysian, and also more importantly, what we accept as Malaysian. There's certain themes, oh, it's not Malaysian enough, right? So I think with film festivals, there is a lack of freedom is one, right? A lack of freedom, and also they are literally narrowing down the lens. And like we mentioned earlier, there are going to be a whole class of filmmakers that are making films just for festivals. And if they're making it just for festivals and all festivals are built like this, they're losing so much perspective and who's to blame for that? Like, what are we gonna do? So, which is why this is where I think I'll have to bring it to, of course, the namesake of this podcast, Take One, right? So, I had this idea for Take One. It's something I remember I was talking to Sharvin, and I even brought it up to you, like just having a film festival of our own, right? And the reason I wanted to do that was because of all of this. I think all of us have been through the film festival circuit. We've seen what it's like out there, and we've seen, what they're looking for, and we don't like it. Simply put, we don't like it. So with Take One, I guess really what I want to do with this and what I think we can really do, not just with the podcast, but with the film showcase event, is we want to allow different kinds of films. Like for last year's one, that's why there was no theme. I didn't want a theme at all. I just said, look, let's just bring people different kinds of films, right? So we, of course, screened your film Techno, mine, Charvin's, and we had a bunch of other people, all the different kinds of films. And for me, when I saw the audience reception, and again, this is not flexing, this is just genuinely what I heard from people, and even you told me this, people were telling us, oh, we loved it. It's so much fun. It felt so freeing. That's the term they use, very freeing. There's so much of variety. And when I think of it, I'm like, well, this is a start. This is something we can do. So I guess for me, what I really want to achieve with Take One is building, again, a community, but also fostering a better version of what we can be. Because I think that's what's lacking. So when we're thinking about, like, of course, like a showcase event, what do you think, Monish, on your end, because you participated, what do you think needs to be done for a showcase event, whether it's for Take One or just in general, right, for it to properly foster a culture for filmmakers and for creatives?
I was lucky enough to be a part of the first Take One along with another great group of filmmakers. I feel like, honestly, it's a great opportunity for filmmakers to network and I think build a sort of community amongst ourselves, but one that feels open to allowing more people in. I dislike the idea of closing it off to just a group, which is how it often feels like. I feel like it should be open and always very accepting. I mean, if nothing else, I feel like we should have more sessions where we can have more dialogue with the filmmakers in question, like it's happening now. Because I feel like that not only gives us an opportunity to just see each other's films, but also to communicate directly. And you never know, maybe there'll be cooler projects we can all do together, and you'll soon see each other acting in each other's films or making films with one another. And I feel that's what it should be about. Community gives opportunity to those who are a part of that, and it should always be welcoming lah. Yeah.
Okay, so we Take One, right? I think the vision that I had for it, and this is based on like conversations that we all have had with each other and experience, right? Is that we wanted to have a space where we don't want like this power dynamic, in the space. We've been to festivals and we felt like, maybe like, people are looking down on us, people looking down on each other, there's this clash of egos and this and that, right? And it's something I feel like it is a disgusting thing, right, to feel. It's not nice, right? So with Take One, I feel like we want to foster a proper community, right? Doesn't matter if you're a rookie filmmaker, like as in like you just started, right? And a student filmmaker, anything, any level, right? I want everybody to feel welcome, because we all had a point where we were just starting out, right? We sucked at certain things, right? I know I sucked at certain things, right? We all started at that point. There were people, I'm pretty sure, that made fun of you guys, made fun of me. Oh, yeah. Definitely, right? Still do, right? But like,
Stop.
yeah. So that's the thing, right? We don't want that you see, constructive criticism, that is necessary, right? But there's a way to do it. There's a way to say it nicely, right? Because you have someone's best interest, right? You want them to grow and all that. There's a way to say it. And then there's another way where people try to put down each other, right? We want to eliminate all of that. We want to have a community where we all help each other, right? Because we are not just helping each other, we are helping the Malaysian film industry. Again, it's in its infancy, right? And we need each other. We need to sort of put each other on the stage, right? And help nurture that thing. So we take one. My vision is that, right? That, and also I want to say we are saying no to AI, right? So no AI allowed in take one at all, right? No generative AI, none of that nonsense, right? We are completely banning it. So if any films have been made with generative AI or anything, we will not allow that, right? Because we are fostering filmmakers, right? People who put their hard work and all that. So that's what I will say. All right. So yeah. Anything you can say?
I think just to add on to that, again, fuck AI. First of all, just had to get that out of there. But I think moving on from that, I think one thing I'd also like to just sort of add on to, even the name Take One, right? I had a bunch of names I sent to Sharvin, actually, like a list of them, and I was like, okay, which one do you think would fit like our event or whatever? And he was like, I sent him a bunch, and I even shortlisted. I sent him another list, and I was like, okay, I like these. Out of these, which one do you like? And he's like, I like Take One. And I was like, I was gravitating towards Take One too. And the reason being, for me, my sort of thing in my head was, all of us, regardless of our level, whether it's, the industry giant, whether it's us, whether it's a student filmmaker, we all start with the first take. It's always that first take one, right? That's where we all start. We all have that in common. That's our one commonality. If not out of everything, that's our one commonality. We all start with take one. And for me, this event and everything is about fostering a community. It's about propping up filmmakers, putting eyes on short films that I think, because there are a lot of gems that I see online, I see constantly. There is no shortage. I think we spoke a lot about the future of filmmaking and maybe our worries, maybe our concerns, but I'll say this. There is no shortage of talent in Malaysia. In fact, I'd argue talent is overflowing in Malaysia. I think it's overflowing. I think we have a surplus of talent. I think that talent is not treated well, but I think there is a surplus. And for me, with Take One, I want to not only highlight, I want us to platform. And the same thing, that's what this podcast is. So here's something I want to let you guys know. Last year's Take One, we had a bunch of filmmakers coming in. We want to invite them on here. We want to interview them. And also for this year's Take One and for whatever years that we're doing, the next year, the next year, we want to bring them on and we want to interview them. We want to talk to them about their films and about themselves. And it's not just, at least for the podcast, we're not just limiting to just those who we're screening at Take One. Even other filmmakers that we know, we may not know, we see their work, we're like, hey, we really like this. Would you like to come on? We can talk. I think through that, again, we don't want to be elitist. We don't want to, sort of gatekeep or like pull the ladder up from others, right? We came up that ladder. We want to not only leave the ladder down, but we want to hoist you up while we are climbing up at the same time, I think that's the only way we can truly help foster a community and we can help grow art and filmmaking in Malaysia. I think it's by genuinely helping each other and not viewing it as, like I'm making films, I don't want to be, I don't want to, I have my own thing, you have your own thing. No, let's all work together. Let's put our heads together. And this is coming from me. Like I said earlier, I have ginormous trust issues. And I decided in my life, like, I want to put that foot forward first. I'm going to take that, Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, leap of faith, penitent man will pass kind of thing. I'm just going to do it first. And so far with last year's one, I think there was such a good response. And this year we're going to do it again and we're going to keep doing it. But with this podcast, it's to supplement that, but also in its own right to showcase more filmmakers, films, and artists. And I think that's what we want to do. But with that, that's the end of the episode, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Any last words? Anything you guys want to say?
So if all of you didn't really get that before, what Val is really saying with his Indiana Jones metaphor is that he's Harrison Ford. No?
Well, back to work, I guess.
Oh my God.
No!
Don't remind
How nice would it be? Yeah, like not to like if you can just fully focus on films, right? Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the dream? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be the dream?
That's what we all are working towards. Anyways, that is the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you guys soon.